What's up, everybody? Clinton Fauché here, and
I'm Albert Chavez.
And this is Front Porch Chronicles, and today, this mammoth of a man, 300 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal. We went to put down accomplishments and things that this man has done. Not only is he a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, top 3 competitor, world record holder squats, world record holder, pretty much everything. Juggernaut training, he started literally everything, track and field, shot put, you name it, he's done it. We are so grateful to have him on today. And let's dive right into it.
Yeah, thank you for taking time, Chad.
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming in. And so we wanted to kind of take it back. We know that you ran track at a very young age. So what kind of got you started in that? You did shot put and you even did the 100-meter dash as well.
Yeah, so I started in track, I think when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
I just played every sport growing up, basketball, soccer, football, everything. And then I think I didn't make certain level of club soccer that I wanted to. So one of my friends had started doing running on a club track team. So I was like, I'll just go hang out with my buddy Kevin. So I get out there and I wasn't like really big. I was just kind of like stocky.
Yeah.
My mom shopped in the Husky jeans section, but I was just kind of like stocky, and quick because I played point guard and basketball and all that kind of stuff. So, most of the club was all running. Like, it was 1994 or something. Like they didn't have this big organized club. It was mostly running. Yeah. So the guy who was coaching me in the shot put, like he was learning how to coach the shot put
on the fly.
Yeah, he was maybe 2 steps ahead of me. So we do all these sprinting drills and high knees and all that stuff. So I ran the 100. I mean, even when we were really young, I think it was I'd run the 50 and the 100. Oh. And then we had the relay, 4x100 meter relay, and we'd run the relay, and I'd throw the shot put too. But shot putting and sprinting really go hand in hand. Like shot put's much more of a speed oriented event.
Is it?
They're all really strong, but for like an Olympic shot putter to throw 70 feet, you have to make the ball go about 13 meters per second. So, and it's only 16 pounds. So like it feels heavy when you pick it up, but when you think, I bench 500, 16 pounds.
That's nothing. Yeah.
What's a goon to a goblin at that point?
Yeah. So you got to get moving fast. So, all the sprinting and jumps and stuff we did carried over really well. And actually we were 4x100 meter champions for Southern California.
Oh, wow.
I think we were like 11 or 12, but so you go through this kind of city, then county, then region, then a SoCal championship. So I think the finals were at Long Beach CC Veterans Stadium there. And, we're 4 white kids from Irvine.
Right.
And
this is big time.
Yeah. And like youth track meets, LA Jets is like a huge one.
I was saying, you're in Long Beach on top of that?
Yeah.
Culture shock.
Yeah. Long Beach is like, and that's every club, every youth track meet. We're going to Inglewood. We're going it's all that stuff. So we win 4x100 and 4 white kids, and every other team is all black. And we finish, like I could hear this dad, right after we win, and we're over there like, hey, stop it. And this dad's like, how you going to let a bunch of little white boys beat you? And we just had, very good handoff technique and stuff. So smooth getting around the circle, or getting around the track. But yeah, then went on to do track in college and a little bit as a post-collegiate. So I think by the time probably I was 13, I had outgrown the sprinting and was all shot put at that point. Yeah.
And you got a scholarship at Concordia, right?
So initially I went to the University of California, Berkeley.
Okay.
We're number 1, Track and Field News ranked as number 1 recruiting class in the country that year for men. So I was, won CIF twice here in high school in Southern California, and then go to Cal on that scholarship. But of our 13 guys in our number 1 ranked recruiting class, I think 3 finished at Cal. Everyone else transferred or quit.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to transfer to either North Carolina, where my high school coach's son was the coach, or University of Georgia, where one of my best friends ended up transferring, but it just didn't really work out. So came back, went to junior college, went to IVC for a year here, didn't do track, just lived on the peninsula with a buddy, and a lot of not track going on there, a lot of not training. So then when I went to Concordia, it was, Concordia is maybe a half a mile from my house I grew up in.
Yeah.
So it was like 3 weeks before classes started, and my dad was like, "Where are you going to school this fall?" And I was like, "Don't really know." And he's like, "Here's the Concordia application, fill it out today." So, but it was my the guy who coached me in high school, a coach named Len Bluetrick, was the throws coach at Concordia. So once he heard that I was going, I had no intention to do track again, but he was like, "Hey, just come and help me out."
How did he hear about you then? If you had no intent, did we just kind of just like in the area and just curious?
Yeah, it's a really small school,
and he's a big guy. He's kind of hard to miss.
Yeah. I mean, I probably let him know that I was going to school there or something, but very small school and NAIA, so small vision. So even though I hadn't trained in, I think, about 20 months at that point, he's like, "You'll still be good for us." And I went that first year, and I guess was fine for Concordia, but I threw less as a redshirt junior, so my fourth year in college, than I did as a true freshman. And I was hurt, and I was out of shape, and I was just like kind of hating it, but doing it as a favor for Coach Blue. And then my last year of eligibility, my redshirt senior year, my fifth year of college, I didn't want to do track anymore, but Concordia private school is pretty expensive. And so my parents were like, "Well, they're going to give you some scholarship for track this year, so you can do it, or, pay for everything yourself, or not go to Concordia."
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just trying to get out of school at this point. Yeah. So I had probably like a week-long pity party for myself, and then decided like, well, if I have to do it, I might as well be good again. So I think as a redshirt junior, I threw 53 feet, somewhere around there. And then as a redshirt senior, threw about 64 feet. And, that was like farther than anyone at UCLA, Cal, Stanford, SC, whatever. I think it's number 3 for all U.S. collegiates that year.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, a fun thing about track is, whether you're at Concordia, NAIA school with 2,000 students, or you're at University of Texas, you go to the same track meet and throw the same shot put.
Yeah, it's just yourself.
Yeah.
It's you versus you.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So let me ask you this: when did you get into powerlifting? Was this something that you started like with your track and with the shot put, or when did you get into powerlifting?
Yeah, so it was, always training very heavy for the shot put, and I think probably in college I was squatting close to 700, benching close to 500. Yeah. Not to powerlifting standard of like pause bench and the great depth on the squat and stuff, but close enough. So I stayed doing track for 1 year as a post-collegiate, which was also the time I had started Juggernaut at that point. But, everyone else who was like a professional shot putter trying to go to the Olympics, they were pretty much a professional shot putter. I was working 70 hours a week at Juggernaut on top of that. And then Coach Blue passed away, who had cancer. So I had no coach. I had a job and a half, and was already trying to catch up from, I didn't train for 20 months in the middle of college.
Right.
So I'm playing catch up against these guys already. So at that point I was like, all right, probably not going to, this was 2010 track season. So I was like, I'm probably not making the Olympics in 2 years, especially in the US is like unbelievable for the shot put.
Yeah.
Like any given year, US has 7 of the top 11 or 12 shot putters in the world.
Oh, wow.
And only 3 make the Olympic team. So if I
Highly competitive.
Yeah, it's not good odds.
Yeah. If I had citizenship in, pretty much at that point, anywhere but the US, maybe Germany had 3 guys.
Yeah.
With the higher standard, but it just wasn't going to happen. So at that point I was like, well, I'm already strong. So I've seen, I'd been reading about powerlifting, and like, because I always wrote my own training, ever since I was like a freshman in high school. So I was always trying to research about training and understand that. So I'd read, West Side Barbell stuff then and learning about powerlifting. So I was like, I'm already strong, so I might as well, I can just cut half my training out, like do all the lifting that I've still been doing, but now I don't have to go throw the shot put. So did a powerlifting meet, my first one in October 2010, squatted 800 at that, and just kind of went from there.
So let me ask you, whenever you told your family, you were like, hey, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. How were they with that? Were they like, what the hell are you thinking about? What are you doing?
Yeah, because you're already like really good at shot put, and it sounds like you at least thought about the Olympics at that time.
Yeah, but as a post collegiate, it wasn't a big deal. It's like there's not, unless you're top 1, 2 in the world in the shot put, which top 1, 2 in the U.S. is pretty much equivalent. You're not making any money, So, and once my coach had passed away too, it was such like an uphill battle trying to kind of do it myself. So with the powerlifting part of things, though, I'm not sure that my parents ever really even understood what powerlifting was.
Yeah.
They came to, and they were at, every track meet basically my whole life from 8 years old to my last meet I was right before I turned 24, and every football game and all that stuff. They tried to come to one powerlifting meet, but actually it was the only meet I bombed out of. So I missed all 3 squats, and they'd gotten there late. So they didn't even see that. They just saw me pissed off after. And my mom, was just kind of like a nervous mom and worried about her, her baby, her youngest son. And even when I would show her a video of the meet after the fact, she would still be reacting like she thought I was going to get injured while I was standing there healthy next to her. So that they never really understood that part of things, and but they were always supportive of whatever I wanted to do. Well, I mean, when I left Cal and went to IVC and coached high school football, they were kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But it's all worked out at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So what led you to start Juggernaut? Was it something that you're just like an epiphany? Was it something like, hey, I'm doing all these other things, I want to try this? What made you, what led you to start it?
Yeah. I'd always really just loved training. I mean, from as a little kid, I have 2 much older brothers, 9 and 12 years older than me. So my oldest brother, Adam, he was playing high school football and, 17, 18 years old when I'm 5 or 6. And he had like weights in the garage. And I remember thinking like, Adam's like the strongest guy ever, because he could do like the
pec poppers. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there at 6 years old, like, that's the best. And in hindsight, he was like 170 pounds.
But you were 6 and you're like, I'm coolest thing ever.
But then, they're showing me like Terminator 2 and Commando and the Rocky movies and stuff when I was a little kid. So even when the first year that I played football, I think I was 10 years old. And my mom said that I was just like around the house and in the backyard, like training, like I'm doing push-ups, and I had gotten all the like bungee cords that you'd like lash stuff down in the back of a truck with. I'd found all the ones I could around the garage, and then I put them around my waist and around a tree in the backyard, and I'm doing like a resisted sprint, and I'm 10 years old, and this is, my parents were not athletes, and they were not pushing me on sports or anything. It was like I'd watched Rocky IV montage too many times, and I was like, I gotta figure it out.
Was the Rocky theme song playing in your head?
Oh, for sure. I definitely had the eye of the tiger. So since I was a little kid, I was into it, and then in high school we didn't have a strength coach, but I knew that it was important for football and for track. So I was using, the remedial early 2000s, internet to learn as much as I could about training. And I, wrote my own program all the way through to be, very successful as a high school athlete. And then our football coach was like, hey, can you help out, these younger guys and stuff too? I was like, sure. So I was already like doing some strength coaching stuff, for myself and then for other guys on the team, even in high school. And then in college when I left Cal, or even before I had left Cal, but I'd be back in the summers here, and I'd run the summer like strength and conditioning program at the high school that I went to for the football team. And then when I transferred back to IVC in Concordia, I coached high school football, coached track, ran the off-season stuff, and just kept learning more and more about training. And was just kind of frustrated in the way that I saw training happening for a lot of high school athletes, and places that existed in Orange County that were more like speed, agility, quickness, like let's do some ladders. And when I was like, no, we got to lift and be strong and powerful. And there's a guy named Joe DeFranco who had a gym in New Jersey. It was like this warehouse gym, and he trained like Brian Cushing, and it's all these like Jersey meathead guys, and they're flipping tires and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like watching these YouTube videos in like 2005 and 6, and like, this is incredible. So the summer before I started my senior year of college, my middle brother lived in New York, so me and my buddy were out there visiting him. And one day I rented a car. My brother worked on Wall Street, so I rent a car while he's at work, and I drive to New Jersey to go to DeFranco's gym, which was legitimately a religious pilgrimage for me. Like, I was so pumped about this.
Yeah.
And so I go out there, and it's just me and Joe DeFranco, and we train for the day. And he was like, looking back, it's like it was probably so small, even compared to like the popular stuff in, because social media just wasn't as big.
Yeah.
But in my world, like, this was like the peak, the pinnacle. He was the biggest deal. So I go out there and train with him for the day, and he had really no idea. I was just like a guy who had contacted him and was like, hey, can I pay you for a personal training session? And he and I are like friends now. I've been on his podcast twice. He's been on mine before. Like, we text, and not like real often now, but or certainly colleagues at this point, where at that point I was just this random guy showing up. And then he realized, he's like, oh fuck, like, this guy's
strong.
He's stronger than everyone at my gym that I've ever had. So, that was like kind of an instant respect factor there. But that was a big moment for me. I was like, I want to create something like DeFranco's here in Orange County. So through my senior year of college, I'd worked some with a physical therapist, and, just laying on the table, and she's asking, oh, what do you want to do after college? And I talked about this idea. So I'd actually gotten offered the throws coaching job to coach up in discus at Cal, which, sort of
huge. Yeah.
And kind of funny, ironic, because I had transferred away from there. But the coach who everyone transferred away from had been fired subsequently. So the guys I liked were still there. So I was going to take that job. And then the closer it got to, having to sign the dotted line and everything, I was like, man, this is no money in a place that's expensive to live, and I want to keep training and trying to go to the Olympics. So I'm basically going to have to coach all day, then train, then probably have another job like a bouncer or something to be able to afford to live in the Bay Area. So I decided to turn that job down. And then when the physical therapist who I'd worked with was friends with my mom, when my mom told her that I was staying around, then she contacted me. She's like, hey, I know you said you wanted to do that facility. Like, let's talk about it. So, graduated college May 2009. Let's call it May 15th, 2009. Wrote, quote, what I perceived to be a business plan starting about June 1st, 2009. My degree is in history, so me and my buddy who I started with were Googling like how to write a business plan.
Yeah.
And so we wrote what at the time we considered to be a business plan. About June 1st, pitched her on the idea. She gave us some startup investment. July 1st, we got the keys to a warehouse on August 1st, and we were open September 1st.
Oh, wow.
So
learning on the fly is a common theme. It seems like you're just doing it all yourself.
Yeah. And like looking back at it, people must have thought that we were fucking crazy. And it's, it's financial crisis and it's recession, and people are like, man, you guys are starting a business in this recession? And I was like, what is a recession? I don't know what that means.
That's what I was gonna say. Honestly, people that know you, like I know you, so honestly, I would never think it was crazy, just because there's a reason why I align with certain people. You, Philippe, there's just certain people that are like, you can 100% trust their word. They're going to outwork everybody, and they're going to do everything the right way. And so that's one of the things about you. I've never, like, there's been people that I'm like, especially moving to Orange County, you're like, they're kind of suspect. And I would be brutally honest if I thought that about you. I'm the most, there's certain people that I just would never, so I would not have that. And coming back to it, think about, you've trained people like Neiman Gracie, Otavio Souza, Philippe Delamonica, Homolo Brow, Tusa, Aubrey, Pew Pew. That's just people from the jiu-jitsu world. Who else have you trained? I know you worked with Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah, combine prep stuff. Joe Burrow is definitely the biggest name in there. MMA guys, Cub Swanson, Fabricio Verdum. Jiu-jitsu has been something I've known. Those, like, jiu-jitsu were some of the first clients I had at Juggernaut, which was really off of like cold calling, walking into a gym just kind of down the street from here. It used to be, at the time it was called Gigante Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Fabio Vilela. And it's like this 6'7", 250-pound
huge
brown belt at the time, but now, many striped black belt. And he was really the gateway to all those other guys who you named, and and they're like, hey, it's a Juggernaut. Hey, we're gonna train with Juggernaut, and so that was really a fun thing. But I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu, before I started training those guys. It was just kind of like, I got to watch some jiu-jitsu and figure out how they move and how long are the matches. Okay, well, we got to condition this way then, and yeah. So some NFL players, not like many big name type of guys,
but still prepping in that way. You trained in football when you were younger, so you at least got to see the adaptation of it. And
so my favorite part of the training that I ever did was we had a lot of high school football guys, and we'd take them from the end of their senior year of high school for the next 6-7 months until they would report for college. So in the span of 3 years, had about 50 guys going to pretty big D1 schools, several to SC, UCLA, Washington State, Arizona, all those places. And then 3 of them made it to the NFL. So I got to, kind of go with them all the way through that. One of them still in the NFL, just finished his 6th season, plays wide receiver for the Dolphins. So he actually, I think, got back today. So start off-season stuff, getting ready for year 7. But yeah, I gotten to do, all kind of stuff in a very diverse group of sports, and then some consulting roles for NFL teams, college track and field, college football, special forces type of stuff. So all over.
Yeah. I was telling Albert, we were talking about training, and I'll never forget, you probably won't remember this. I remember the first time I sparred with you, and we had come in, and I was pretty much a dog, and I was like, okay. And I was like, this guy's big, but you can't really tell with the gi on. So I was like, okay, this is a kind of a chunky guy, but I can't really. And I'll never forget, I pulled a triangle, and I'm like, okay, I got this sucker. And I tell people, he just picked me up like a newborn baby. It was like Christ the Redeemer just lifting me up. And I was like, I went to the side, and I'm like, Philippe, who is this guy? And he's like, oh, that's Chad Wesley Smith. And I'm like, okay. At the time, I didn't know. And I'm like, who the hell is Chad? So I Google, and I'm like, okay, well, no wonder this dude picked me up. He curls cars. No wonder he just lifted me up like it was nothing. So
that was my favorite stuff in early jiu-jitsu, because I was coming from powerlifting and strongman, and everyone knows me or knew me in that. So I go to a powerlifting meet, and it's fun. All right, they want to take a picture or whatever. But it gets kind of can be a little tiresome.
Yeah.
But at jiu-jitsu, it's like people are like, oh, powerlifting, like that's cool. I don't know what that is, but the only like weird reactions I would get is those first couple days of training, because I'd known Philippe for 10 years at that point. So the first day when I'm about ready to throw up from the warm up, like 360 pounds, really out of shape at that point. I hadn't even been powerlifting for like a year prior to that. But then we're going through the line at the end, and hey, Coach Chad, good job today, and everyone, like, why is Professor Philippe calling this out of breath, no stripe white belt Coach Chad? So.
Hey, it escalates quickly. So let me ask you this: going into all of that with Juggernaut Training Systems, I know you launched an app. I know you have other programs and other things. How can people be able to train with Chad, train with Juggernaut Training System? What's the best way? We'll have the link down below, but I wanted you to kind of explain what that is.
Yeah. So, if they wanted to train with me, they probably need to be a professional MMA fighter or an NFL player and already know me, or know someone who knows me, so they can text me about it, because I do very little in-person training at this point. Maybe 5-6 pro MMA guys in my garage, and then some NFL guys if they're home in the off season.
Yeah.
But our main business is the Juggernaut AI app, which we released towards the end of 2020, December 2020, and that creates artificial intelligence driven strength training programs. So mostly, powerlifting, power building, which is like a powerlifting bodybuilding combo. And they find that in the App Store. JuggernautAI.app is the website, which we prefer you go there because the App Store has a lot of fees that they take on us. But then we have Juggernaut BJJ app as well, which is strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu, which I said those are some of my earliest Juggernaut clients. So coming up on 15 years of that at this point. So,
and I've kind of dabbled through the app. It is legit. We'll have the link down below.
Do you also compete in jiu-jitsu as well? I know you're a purple belt.
I've competed some at blue belt. I was definitely competing more often, more seriously. So it was, third at Pan Am's, third at Worlds at blue belt, and then so that was 2019 that I was doing that blue belt, and then started 2020 I did like a super fight thing over here, and at that I had ruptured a tendon in my thumb in that match, and then like a week later was COVID, so everything got shut
literally
down.
I was there at it was at the fairgrounds. I was there to support him, and then literally a week later it was COVID and everything shut down.
So then there was no competitions anyways, and it was really back-to-back weeks. I did the thumb at that match, and then 1 week before, my misshapen pinky here, I dislocated this and ruptured the tendon in that. So I had 2 bad hands, and there were no competitions for COVID anyways. So as I kind of got back into training, ended up having that back surgery at the start of 2021, which I'd had herniated discs or been aware of them since 2013. So pretty much all my heaviest powerlifting was done with the herniated discs, and which really most powerlifters have them, whether they know it or not, and or if it's symptomatic or not. But once I had that back surgery started 2021, which my surgeon said that I had the record for the most herniated disc that he had performed surgery on. Well,
is that because?
So if you think of your disc is like a jelly donut, and a herniation is the jelly coming out of the donut, and microdiscectomy, which is a pretty common surgery, is they scrape away the jelly that came out of the donut. So I had the most jelly out of my donut.
That does not sound fun.
But he said that my donuts were bigger. My discs were bigger.
His
than
donuts
normal.
bring all the boys to the yard. Yes.
But it was about almost 2 inches long of that disc material and about 9 millimeters thick. I'd say like about the size of my pinky coming out of the disc, just pressing on the nerve. So after that, I was like, I don't think I
need to chill out.
Yeah. So I did compete one more time. Got second at Masters Worlds this past year, which was the first time I'd competed in 3.5 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And then I kind of want to, I have to ask this question because you were in the strongman competition, right? How do you How do you get that mindset to know that you have to go through all this training and like consistently to get to 900 pounds? Like, what makes someone want to achieve something like that?
I mean, like I said, even when I was a little kid, I was just like obsessed with the idea of being strong.
Yeah.
Like, it was always just very fascinating to me. Then, you know, I think everyone's max or whatever is probably a bit relative. Like, I have a talent for lifting these weights, genetics, you know, as you can maybe see on these camera angles. The size of my knees are like the size of an elephant. So, you know, it was just kind of like, well, how do we put 5 more pounds on the bar? And just kept doing that over and over and over. And early in powerlifting, or I remember being in college, and I think like freshman year in college, maybe I squatted 620 and a little high. I wasn't passing a powerlifting meet, but that's when I was first learning about powerlifting. And I'd read these articles about guys squatting like 1,100 pounds. And I didn't understand at the time that they were doing what's called equipped powerlifting, which is a different discussion, is with like a supportive suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, 18, 19 years old, I saw that and I was like, okay, well, like that makes sense to me that, you know, I'm 18 doing 620. So if I was, you know, kept doing this, yeah, I'll probably do 1,000 sometime. Like, it just sort of, like, in my naivete of that time, I was just like, yeah, let's just keep getting stronger. And that's what you do. You know? I've always gotten stronger. So why would I stop? I'll just keep getting stronger. So I think it helps to not think about it too much, probably, you know, because early in my powerlifting career, when I wasn't near as strong, once a weight would get over 900, I didn't even really think about it. Like, that was my 3rd powerlifting meet. I took 905 on the 2nd attempt. It was the American record at the time. And I was just like, cool. Like, that was the plan. So then what's on the next one? Where 3-4 years later, I was way, way stronger, but it had some injuries and stuff. And it almost like it all became a bigger deal in my mind. And I'd get to above 900 and I was like, I could squat 100 pounds more in training, but then now I'd be like, okay, it's above 900 now. Like, we gotta really lock in and do something here.
Yeah.
Where maybe earlier it was like an ignorance is bliss type of deal. But, you know, people ask like, well, how's that feel on your back or whatever? Like the pressure of it. And it's like, I think it feels, my max probably felt the same as other people's maxes feel to them, regardless of what that number is. You
build the strength and stability and the mental strength to keep going forward. Yeah.
You know, if one day you're doing 500 and then you're like, next week I'm going to do 1,000. Well,
good luck with that, bud.
You're going to get surprised real quick. But
see what happened was you talked about some jelly from the donut. All the jelly from the donut's coming out if you try that. That's a no bueno. So you've got we talked about some of your other accomplishments. You got a really cool podcast, Beers with Chad. And we'll have the link down below for it as well. You had a conversation on there that you kind of hinted at, and we were kind of talking about it. We wanted to open that up with the Brady Mahomes controversy. It's always funny when people talk about Jordan or LeBron or whatever. And so I'll give my take. My take with the whole Brady Mahomes thing. We talked about it and we're like, well, is it just the rings? And for me, ultimately, it is about the rings. And so for me, I would say Brady is the GOAT and going to be the GOAT until you surpass that. Has Mahomes done a lot of great things? Yes. Is he on the trajectory of being better than Brady? Yes, he is. But as you kind of know, we talked about the jelly donuts. There's injuries that happen. There's so many different complicated things with sports these days and injuries, just so much extra stuff. We had COVID that went, like, there's so many extra things. We don't know what long term, if he's going to be better. For me, again, it goes back to the ring. So I'm saying Brady myself. Plus, I don't like Mahomes. You know, not that I say you're supposed to bring other people. His brother and his wife really kill the vibe for me. So
his wife's not too bad anymore. His brother though is He's really been hiding his brother away.
Yeah.
Last year.
He did do it. I think probably they said that the management probably came to him and was like, "Hey, look, bro."
Well, he made like the brother kind of popped in one time with Taylor Swift, and then all the Swifties were like, "Why is Taylor hanging out with this guy? He did the sexual assault stuff," and never to be seen again.
Yeah, he slapped the chick at the bar, and then
Yeah.
I think that was the final straw. But I know he had done something like he danced on Sean Taylor's memorial.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things. So from a young buck, who do you?
Mahomes, I think he's on the trajectory, right? Like he has all these rings. He's been there so many times. But you can't say he's the GOAT when he hasn't won 7 rings. And Tom Brady had 3 Hall of Fame careers. Like the longevity's there, the discipline, the leadership, everything's there. And he didn't get the same amount of money that Patrick Mahomes has gotten at such a young age. You don't know what that's going to do in 5-7 years. I
think it's, fool's errand to try and compare someone's complete season, especially or complete career, especially such a long one, to this portion of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
and they do this stuff with Brock Purdy too. They're like, oh, no, of course he's not elite. Look at what Peyton Manning or Kurt. I think Kurt Warner is the best comp for Brock Purdy or Tom Brady, and they're talking about him. It's like this guy's played 21 games.
Yeah,
you can't compare it. But if you look at the first 6 seasons of Patrick Mahomes' career versus the first 6 seasons of Tom Brady's career, team accomplishment wise, if the Chiefs win, they'll be equal. They will have both won 3. And and Mahomes would have gone to 4, lost 1 to Brady, and people are going to hold that against him forever. And it's like, yeah, he lost in the playoffs his first year as a starter, and then they lost in the Super Bowl because they couldn't block the defensive line. Tom Brady didn't get any sacks on Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And even listening I was listening to Tom Brady interview with Pat McAfee on the way over here, and he's talking about football ultimate team game. So, to me, Patrick Mahomes, if he stays on any sort of similar course that he is now for the next, 12 years and has like a 17-year career or something and wins 5 Super Bowls in that, like, if you watch Tom Brady play quarterback, especially his first 6 years where Patrick Mahomes is at this point, and you watch Patrick Mahomes is far. Like excellent. The first 3 Super Bowls, Tom Brady was a game manager and used in the negative connotation that people use it with.
Today, yeah.
And he was great at that, and he had his clutch moments, but, Adam Vinatieri made the kicks. Tom Brady didn't make the kicks,
Right.
Or people were like knocking my boy Brock Purdy earlier this year, like, oh, he's not clutch. And it's like, well, Jake Moody missed the kick. Like they needed a field goal and he got him in field goal position.
Okay, if I hear Cam Newton, and keep in mind, I already have a bias against Cam Newton from him.
Florida State.
Now he was at Florida. We kicked him out for the stolen laptop deal. He went to Auburn and did his thing. So I already kind of have.
I'm just jealous of Cam's fashion.
Definitely not. He can keep all of that. But with that being said, if I hear him one more time talk about Brock Purdy and being a game manager, like, it's insane to me that of all people, he is like, he compared the other day, he was like, oh, you're the 10th best player on your team and you're this and you're that. And I'm like, bro, like, what did Cam really ever do? Like, you're not even on a team. Like, you haven't been on a team.
And he would be very bad in the 49ers offense. He could not
He would try to
manage
take it all himself. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's like, oh, well, and that's the difference. Knowing when to be a game manager and when to do what you need to do to get the win. Brock Purdy does that, whereas Cam Newton just tried to put everything on his back and try to go win. He wasn't the game manager, this negative connotation that he brings up or whatever.
Yeah, but with the Mahomes thing, as saying, like, just that eye test of Mahomes up to this point versus Brady at the same point in his career. Mahomes is so much more excellent in that regard. Brady had more individual accomplishments through kind of the next 2/3 of his career, but still not. I mean, even his best year ever is still not Patrick Mahomes' individual best year. So I think if Mahomes, 10, 12 years from now has won 5 Super Bowls, but is, he's going to have every record because, they just throw more now and
his athletic ability too is way more.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But if you just watch them both play, and I had pulled up some of these advanced stats, and for the first 6 years of Tom Brady's career, those EPA per play and air yards, those stats don't even exist for that time. But if you look at his entire career, his I think it was intended air yards of pass attempts, how far down the field he's throwing them for his entire career was an average of 2.1 yards.
Wow.
So it's
little dinks.
Yeah, it's thrown to the running backs in the backfield, which is a negative yard in that regard. And Mahomes was 6 point something. So, he's just going to rack up the stats so much faster. And even Mahomes is not yes, he throws incredible deep ball, but that's another one where people knock Brock Purdy and they're like, oh, it's all check downs and stuff. And it's they have those stats. He throws the ball down the field more than Patrick Mahomes does, actually.
Yeah. Huh.
And I mean, it's not a throwing contest as far as how far you can throw. It's
You can score more points.
Getting the dub. So with that, who are you now? I know you're kind of torn because your brother-in-law is the Chiefs fan.
Yeah, I have to root for the Niners just because he's a Chiefs fan. I'm from Sacramento, so it kind of tears me a little bit because everyone there is a bandwagon, I think. But I think they have the better team. They deserve it in the fact that Brock Purdy is doing what he did after a UCL injury last year, Mr. Irrelevant, and still being able to mentally be there.
I was at Mr. Irrelevant. They do a week-long celebration. It's, I guess, sort of ironic celebration in some ways, in Newport Beach.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. So the first event is a big banquet at the restaurant, the Cannery, right on the water.
Yeah.
So we went to that, and I didn't even realize when me and my buddies were going that it was Brock Purdy. And I was like, oh, awesome, 49ers, because I did this consulting stuff for the 49ers. And this is also an open bar type of event. And your boy was hammered. And to the point where I had to call Dustin, the strength coach, the next day. I'm like, man, I'm really sorry if I was wearing my 49ers polo and I may have represented us badly to Brock Purdy. But at the time, I was like, this kid's not going to make the team. This was June. So 3 months before the start of his rookie year.
And they had Jimmy G and someone else. I can't remember who else.
And Trey Lance. Yeah, so I was like, this guy, 7th round pick, he's probably not making the team.
Yeah.
But, it's been so fun to see his progress, and just the nicest guy. I mean, looks like he's 12 years old, but, great guy.
He composes himself very well.
Oh,
yeah.
And a tough competitor, and to hear... I love the 49ers, and I've gotten to know guys on the team and coaches over the last 5 years, and so rooting as hard as I can for them. But the character, just regular character and football character of their team, to have your best players, Fred Warner, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Bosa, also be such hard workers, guys who are never in trouble, guys who are never oh, is he going to play hard? Is he going to block hard? And it's no, they're the, Ayuk sprinting down field, making, 3 blocks on these Christian McCaffrey runs. They're all super physical. Mm-hmm. And for those kind of veteran guys like Trent Williams, the biggest badass in the NFL, the way that he talks about Brock Purdy and the respect that he clearly has for him, I think says everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going definitely. It's funny you say that because I met Dustin at actually it was your birthday party, and I met Dustin, and it was crazy because the whole night, we're jiving and we're talking, and he's kind of asking me. We were watching a UFC event, and he's kind of talking and asking me about stuff, and so the end of the night comes up, and he's like, hey man, let's keep in touch. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, okay, he's just maybe one of the powerlift, maybe he's just a regular guy at the party. I didn't think anything. This is how humble he was. And so he was like, okay, well, I was like, well, follow me on Instagram and we'll kind of be able to. And so he's like, okay. I was like, well, how do you spell it? And it pulls up, and it's head strength and conditioning coach of the 49ers. And I'm like, what? I'm sitting here talking to this dude. He's the most humble. Since then, I've gotten to know him, his wife Adrian, who is absolutely amazing, their daughter, like the most humble. And so like when you talk about the 49ers, I instantly picture him and how he is, and every person that you say, it's kind of like a like tribe. So I can see 100% how all of them are that way, no diva type stuff. So I'm going 49ers 100%. So we're unanimous on that. So we don't have to go against each other on Super Bowl.
Are you betting on? Do you bet on the game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Niners they got to run the ball. You know, the Chiefs defense is bottom 5 against the run, much better against the pass. Use the run to set up the pass. Like the thing that frustrated me so much watching like the Packers game is it was all this, and I think because when Debo went out, there's no way to like just plug someone else into his role.
Cannot.
So it just took this big chunk out of the playbook. But I was watching, I was like, they're not running 49ers offense. Like it was straight drop back stuff with Brock, and between that and the weather, he was just not comfortable. And it wasn't until I felt like the last drive, they started running the bootlegs and more play action stuff. So as long as they're using that to set up, you know, that's what Brock really does well, and he's getting the ball out on time. That when you have those weapons, I mean,
it's just getting to the right guy at the right time.
And no one can match the 49ers. I mean, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, CMC, Juszczyk, because you could come out with those guys and be in, you know, empty, like 5 wides, because you could split Juszczyk, the fullback, out wide. Or you could come out and it be, you know, a tight power run kind of look with Kittle and Juice and like a power eye look, and then Debo's coming in motion with a toss action, and then it's McCaffrey hitting it up the middle from there, and it's like, how can you be ready for that as a defense? So hopefully, you know, to go to 4, you know, second Super Bowl, 4 NFC Championship games. Let's hope this is the one they get over the hump.
I'm going to be
the best team you've had for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to be no voice
in a while.
Yeah.
All right, so we've gone through all the accomplishments. Besides all of that, not only that, you're a businessman and you own what? How many homes now?
Investment property stuff, I think about 75 doors, but I mean, there's a 28 unit apartment in that, 11 unit, and then we just started getting into some syndication stuff the end of last year. So I've done 3 syndication deals out there now as well. So I'm both a GP and LP on those.
Nice.
So amongst all of the accomplishments as a businessman, as a good person, all of those things, one of the things we kind of been asking people at the end to close things out is, what do you want if today was your last day? If this was it and you knew that, what would be the one thing you would want to be etched in history about Chad Wesley Smith?
It's a pretty deep question.
You gotta finish it off strong.
You know, I think that I would want people to remember me as, you know, someone who acted with integrity regardless of situation, that live for something greater than myself, you know, my friends, my family, you know, trying to be supportive of them in all ways. Like I don't have any kids, so I have kind of this different role as like super uncle, you know, to both my actual nieces and nephews and then all my friends' kids and stuff. So, you know, just that they see me as someone who, you know, act with kindness and love in my heart and have, you know, people's best interest in mind all the time.
I will concur. All of those things will definitely be the things that I will, if today was your last day, remember you for. You've always been a super solid, you know, somebody that I know I can confide in, trust in, and a light, whether you know it or not, a light to a lot of people. And you motivate me with your constant on-the-go movement while doing so with such a loving and caring heart. So
yeah, one thing I'll definitely take away from just interacting with me and you today is you can hear the genuineness and desire to grow and want to help those around you. And if you don't know something, you're going to figure it out. And the word integrity definitely fits you, right? So I appreciate you sharing your story.
It's funny because I was trying to explain to him, because we always do like the day before we try to do research. And so he goes through and like Otavio, different guys. So he comes through and he's like, man, he's got so many things on here. I don't even know what specifically. And I was like, when you meet him, like you hear these power lifters and all of this stuff, and you think this guy's going to come in and he's going to be grunting. And I said, dude, he is the most nice, loving, caring guy that you will ever meet. And so you came through like you always do. And you showed that. I could tell even in your eyes. So we'll go ahead and sign off. We would say go Niners, and we appreciate you guys. We appreciate you coming. We'll have all of the links for Beers with Chad, Juggernaut Training, all of those things. We look forward to seeing you guys next week, and we're signing out. Have a good one.